We got to talk about Donald Trump. Donald Trump, of course, is named in the court documents, but we're not going to bury the lead. It seems to be more exculpatory so far. And I will say this first and foremost. You find in these court documents evidence and accusations against Donald Trump. I am alongside, I will say, be it him or Dershowitz or anybody else, investigate, lock up anybody who was engaged in this trafficking. But cursory search, all I did, to Control F Trump. And what do we find? So there were a few instances initially. They say Maxwell said, this is closer to the beginning of the document. Jeffrey Epstein, who was a friend of Donald Trump, so I figured, well, he was a good guy or whatever, and what she was going to learn, and she was going to learn massage therapy. Did Virginia tell you this? Oh, I can tell you, I can't tell you what date and time, blah, blah, blah. So Trump is passively mentioned here. The next instance of his mention is this. This is a court statement, not an interview. The other portions of the court records are interview with witnesses and victims. In this one, it says 3. Donald Trump was a good friend of Mr. Epstein and, quote, flirted with me. Now, here's what's interesting. Jump to the next instance of Donald Trump. She says, okay, and what else did you put a check by? Quote, Donald Trump was a good friend of Jeffrey's. He didn't partake in any sex with any of us, but he flirted with me. He'd laugh and tell Jeffrey you've got the life. Other than the 3 you've just mentioned, everything else on here is absolutely accurate. Yes. What the witness is saying is that statement, that quote, is not accurate. You jump to the next instance. All right, what's inaccurate about the last statement on the page? Quote, Donald Trump was also a good friend of Jeffrey's. That part is true. Quote, he didn't partake in any sex with us, but he flirted with me. It's true that he didn't partake in any sex with us, but it's not true that he flirted with me. Donald Trump never flirted with me. He'd laugh and tell Jeffrey, you've got the life. I never said that to her. When you say he didn't partake in any sex with us, who is us? Girls. How do you know who Donald Trump had sex with? She says, I didn't physically see him have sex with any of the girls, so I can't say who he had sex with in his whole life or not. I just know it wasn't with me when I was with the other girls. It looks like, while Trump is mentioned, they do mention like going to the casino. One of the more fascinating things is apparently someone says, we tried to go to Trump's casino in Atlantic City, but Virginia couldn't get in. She was underage. Trump's establishment was like, you're too young, you can't come in. This is really interesting. Now, I'm not trying to play games where we're just here to attack Democrats and defend Donald Trump. Okay. We need a full accounting of these court documents and the accusations. Secondly, innocent until proven guilty. Alan Dershowitz, of course, is accused of raping a minor in this. And that may or may not be true. He should be investigated now. And there should be a legitimate investigation. But I say we got to be careful about this. I'm inclined to say I believe there's a morsel of truth here. Right off the bat, my inclination is to believe the victims, but I still don't think we should just jump off the boat and be like, it's a fact, it's proven. We need real criminal investigations and accountability on this. This document is from a defamation lawsuit. In a defamation lawsuit, you can say anything you want. It doesn't make it true.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is the troubling part here is this is so pervasive at the highest levels of power. So just investigating it's going to be difficult in itself. And as just watching it unfold, and since this has started, it's actually made me feel kind of small. I feel like I have no effect whatsoever on anything. When I see this kind of stuff happening, and my voice doesn't matter, to fight
Especially when you don't talk into your microphone.
Let's pretend I'm silent.
Here, let's read more real quick. It says, what is the basis for your statement that Donald Trump is a good friend of Jeffrey's? Answer, Jeffrey told me that Trump is a good friend of his. Who in the world at the time would not say and try and brag about Donald Trump? It's name dropping. She said, the question is, have you ever observed them together? Answer, no, not that I can actually remember. I mean, not off the top of my head. When did Trump flirt with you? He didn't. That was inaccurate. Did you ever see Donald Trump at Jeffrey's home? Not that I can remember. On his island? No, not that I can remember. In New Mexico? No, not that I can remember. In New York? Not that I can remember. All right. If you could turn to the second page, et cetera, et cetera. So far, like right when you open up this court document, I mean, this is just one. I'm not saying all of them. And you search Trump, instantly it's like, nah, he wasn't there. He didn't flirt with me. That wasn't true. I couldn't get into the casino. I was underage. Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, look, if it comes out, like you said, that anything at all, implicates Trump.
That's why I think they're going to twist the Mar-a-Lago thing. Like, I'm only looking at one document too. And again, there are a lot that have come out, but the idea that potentially Ghislaine Maxwell went to Mar-a-Lago to recruit underage girls who had jobs there. I mean, it doesn't matter that they were working legally, as whatever at Mar-a-Lago, working the spa, doing whatever waitressing jobs. But it would be interesting to see the media, and I believe this is what will happen, is like, oh, well, then why did Trump let her go there if he knew she was recruiting women? Because that was her role in Epstein's organization. And it's going to be this endless reaching for straws, anything to tie the narrative together the way they want it to. And what's sad is that ultimately there are young women who were victimized by this person, and it doesn't matter because they weren't victimized by someone they're willing to prosecute.
Matters.
Yeah.
Like the issue never actually matters. It's the same reaction, or it will be the same reaction to this kind of stuff in regard to Trump as it was to like Kavanaugh when he was before he was confirmed.
Falsely accused?
Yeah, he was falsely accused, and they drummed up, produced people that will lie under oath. Nothing ever happens to them, for lying, but it serves a purpose, which is only to retain power for the people that are on either the left or the people in the establishment.
Yeah, the establishment.
Yeah.
I just really hope that this wakes up just a few people. You know what I mean? If some people can follow this, and they can change just slightly because of this, to be a little bit less trusting of the establishment, to be a little less biased, I think that's an achievement in itself. I think that would be one positive of this, situation. But again, I mean, I've just seen it unfold since the beginning. I've seen the incredible defense of people who are clearly not worth defending. And I don't, and it's not just this, it's been continual. There's been this kind of, we talked about psychogenic epidemics in my documentary and these social experiments. There's a certain degree of mass hysteria that takes place over issues now where people can literally justify or defend anything.
Here's the setup. Phil mentions they can get anybody to lie under oath for him. We saw those women in the Kavanaugh case claim that they were gangbang parties where men were lining up outside of rooms to rape women.
Total fabrication out of nothing.
And we know that Christine Blasey Ford, her stories were nuts. She was like, I'm scared to fly. Did you fly here? Yes. Did you fly on vacation? Yes. What are you talking about? What do you think happens? We get to an October surprise. A woman comes out and says she was a victim of Jeffrey Epstein. Donald Trump did it. That's all it takes.
That's all it takes, especially nowadays with the media, the way it's going to run with it, and it's going to become the biggest story.
I just think it'll be less credible than, with Kavanaugh, you saw a huge division in people who believed it no matter what. Definitely whoever was accusing Kavanaugh was right. Whereas there were a lot of people who were challenged it. There were a lot of people who said, this is not legitimate. This case is coming out of nowhere. I stand by Kavanaugh, whatever else he ultimately was approved for the Supreme Court. And I think it's similar with Trump, right? Like Trump already had to face some weird charge of, sexual battery or whatever in a story in which there's no proof that he even had ever had contact with this woman. They've tried to convict him on these grounds before, both in the court of public opinion with the grab him by whatever quote, and in actual court, and it does not change the fact that his supporters don't believe it. It's a difficult position. That could be the case with the October surprise that Donald Trump's on the list and we have credible evidence that it was him. But I ultimately think that they have made him such a villainized man that his supporters will fall in line behind him. And he's accused of so much, we've sort of hit our threshold. You don't really believe that this wealthy, famous guy who's already been accused of this before.
Well, nobody new believes, because the people that were inclined to believe it, they were already going to believe it no matter what you said negatively about Trump.
But there's no one else to win over.
No,
I don't think
right. Doesn't that point to such a big issue at this point? That what you're pretty much saying is that regardless of evidence, regardless of what comes forward, people have made up their minds about Trump.
Yeah, for sure.
So it doesn't matter if he is guilty, if he's not guilty, if evidence comes out, if it doesn't come out, the people who support him.
Right.
And we're in a position where we can't even trust what comes out anymore anyway.
What I want to know is if Biden's on the list. That's my actual question. Because if Bill Clinton is, and with Biden, and we have a bunch of other Democratic supporters, again, people already have their political bias, and I hate to feed into that. But the real question is the October surprise going to be that Joe Biden had contact with Jeffrey Epstein? In my opinion.
I still don't. I don't think that I still don't think that it's as much about Trump as it is about. I think Trump is a symptom of everything. I think if it wasn't Trump, it would be someone else. That would be getting the negative attention. So, I still kind of stick to that opinion.
What is it about people in power doing sick things like this, though? What is the weird when does that happen? That insanity that takes over your mind?
No. It's actually really simple. If you are an abuser and you're looking for a way to get away with it, you need power to protect yourself when you commit crimes.
That makes sense.
DC is the highest density of sociopaths. People who want power They're going to go to DC. That's the place to get it. People who want to break the law and commit crimes. You got stupid criminals who run into a Walmart and snatch things around the door. You got smart criminals who get elected to Congress and then insider trade.
Yeah, growing up, I just thought that this was such an obscure, rare thing to actually happen. And as I've gotten older, I've sadly had to accept the fact that it's far more pervasive.
What? That, like, sexual deviancy or people abusing their position of power?
No, child rape.
Yeah, it's I mean, I think this is like the weird thing, which is that we know there are children trafficked all over the world, but for some reason we don't think it happens here in the U.S. We think it happens somewhere else. But ultimately, people in the U.S. either go somewhere else or it has to happen on our door. There's no way the numbers could bear up otherwise.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.